Beast of Reincarnation is an interesting one. Played it for about 15 hours on hard difficulty, finished 2.5 zones, and overall seen enough to make this early review. Early review means it's not a full review, which comes after beating the game, so my opinions are subject to change. Full review is going to be on Patreon and Subscribestar once I beat the game. So what is Beast of Reincarnation, you mixed bastards? It's an action RPG that reminds a bit of Final Fantasy VII Remake when it comes to combat, as it combines action and pause tactical elements, but the focus remains on action. It has a more fantasy version of The Last of Us world, has some Souls-like elements, parry is important almost as much as in Sekiro, so there's a little bit of everything. Does it work though? Let's start with the writing. Story and lore are so far quite interesting. World is being devoured by blight and blighted creatures that are spreading it. Few human bastions remaining are trying to still fight this losing battle. To help themselves with the numbers and to preserve knowledge, humans have constructed golems and infused them with human souls. From one of the bastions comes our main character Emma, a purifier without a heart and soul, which is depicted by her lack of emotion. Or maybe she's just depressed. No, she supposedly doesn't have heart and soul. Emma has been given a task to kill the Beast of Reincarnation in order to stop the blight, but in order to do so she first needs to kill many bosses and absorb their powers. That's not all though. She also sees Violet, a mysterious ghost attached to her.
珍しい。ビワじゃ。あれは薬になる。エマ。
あなたは食べないのに、どうして食べ物にこだわ
まあ、良いではないか。
Oh, and she also has a dire wolf or dire dog or whatever this big fluffy thing is. Then there's Brad, a mysterious mech driver who is studying the reincarnation cycles and how to break those, among other things. Then there's Kagura, a kid we took with us to protect it from the outside world. So Emma, God bless her lack of heart and soul, managed to attract quite a posse in a desolate world. All that is well and good, but are the story, lore and characters any good though? So far it's quite interesting. Characters are developing over time with their own backstories. Everyone is a mystery, but bit by bit we are fed more info on who they all are. We are finding out more lore about the world, the beast, human colonies, the capital where we need to go, characters. I'm intrigued as to where the story is gonna go. It can end up being fantastic or generic crap. There are few downsides to the story presentation and writing. Cutscenes can take way too long sometimes. I know they need to tell the story and history of the world, locations and characters, but they can do it faster without losing any significance. These are no Metal Gear Solid cutscenes. Another issue is the slow dialogue which affects the cutscenes and story bits and pieces. Not only very slow dialogue, but frequently lacking in significance.
ビワか薬になるな。
いくらになる？
せいぜい200だな。
こいつ、買い叩きおって。植えれば増やせる貴重な実じゃというのに。
Let's move on to the world and exploration. Blight affects the world in such a way that it constantly changes. World is being warped by it. Also, nature meets urban combination makes a good presentation of the post-apocalypse. What is much better done in this game compared to a lot of other Eastern games is exploration. Usually Eastern games give you an additional hallway or two to go through to open up a chest. I was dumbfounded every time I've played a JRPG or Eastern action RPG and wanted to explore just to find out that the most locations were fully linear outside of a few hallways with the chest at the end. Terrible exploration. Thankfully, Beast of Reincarnation does it differently and does it in line with lore. Due to world shapeshifting and warping, verticality is the main way of exploration. from underground to all the way up to the top of the buildings. All sorts of valuable loot is hidden in many locations that are reached through using Emma's blighted hair. Verticality is well done and adds a lot to the exploration of this interesting world. World is also full of details like dead giant robots and branched animals, destroyed skyscrapers, abandoned houses, beautiful meadows, hidden golems that relay information about enemies or hidden stuff in the area. We'll see how later areas do it when it comes to exploration and the loot. So far it's pretty damn good. The game does have an atmosphere, although not a significant one. It's sporadically felt. Mostly lonesome and depressive atmosphere which fits the world and the lore. Only issue is the music. Here's a tip to all the developers. Music with singing works only in specific parts in games where it can add to the scene. Outside of those very few moments where music with singing can work in short bursts, singing becomes annoying quickly otherwise. I've had to turn off music to never have to listen the main song playing on loop. Very annoying. Now we come to gameplay. Combat is quite interesting. It's medium to fast-paced action with fantastic animations, sound and visual effects. Too many visual effects though, as it can frequently obscure enemy attack animations, and considering how important parry is, it can lead to a few problems. Thankfully the parry window is not that small, which fixes the problem a bit. There's a bar that fills up with every parry, but it also gets depleted when we only guard. Bar is used for special attacks and to stop time during combat, so the bar is quite useful. If the bar gets fully depleted, we can't block anymore. Interesting system that works quite well. Combat is not complicated as it functions through simple combos done by combining regular attacks with special attacks. Defensively, we can parry, block and dodge. Then there's the time stop special too. Hair that can be used to cover distances quickly and to attack from above. There's simplified aerial combos. Simple, and it works good enough with a nice flow. Animations are great, visual effects too, although there's too many on the screen. Field of view is too narrow though, and the game would benefit from an increase. Big part of combat is Ku, the wolf, or dog, or whatever. Ku can attack enemies on its own, can be sent to attack a specific enemy and assassinate them instantly, use many forms of special attacks that can put status effects on enemies, tie enemies together so that you can easily attack many at once, bind enemies in place. I'm interested to see what other abilities will be unlocked over time. So far the game has been quite generous with the new unlocks in form of new special moves for Emma and Ku. Each move can be incorporated into better combat flow and prolonged combos that would make enemies defenseless. There's also ranged weapons that are quite powerful but disrupt the flow of combat because it requires aiming, which can be a bit problematic. Would be much better if the game didn't have aim at all and was based around lock-on automatic projectiles that could be fired without the aim button. That would lead to a much better melee ranged flow. Though it is refreshing to see ranged weapons being powerful and enjoyable to use to this extent due to great sound and visual effects, but them interrupting combat flow is a problem. Enemy design is solid overall. This is where many games fail, but in Beast of Reincarnation enemies are above average. They play defense occasionally, which is nice to see. Usually enemies in games like these do their best to impersonate training dummies, which makes for predictable punching bag combat. But here they are more interesting to fight. Especially elites, whose defenses we have to find a way to break. I'm not saying enemies are brilliant, because they are not, but they do enough to make fights more interesting with their moves and actions. Same goes for bosses, nothing special, but decent enough to not make it a slog or some kind of a janky encounter. Bosses would benefit a lot from more attack and defense variety, as there seems to be too few moves that each of them do in general, with some of the moves being repeated in a similar fashion by more than one boss. Aesthetically, bosses are good and their animations are solid, but the lack of movesets is obvious. They do just enough to not make the fights mediocre or bad. Biggest problem I have with combat is the difficulty design. Some enemies like elites are difficult no matter what in a good way due to them being adept defensively, but the issue is that all of them do way too much damage with a single hit, which leads to cheap deaths. Elites and some regular enemies hit like bosses, so instead of a more back and forth prolonged fight, which would be interesting considering how the combat system works, we cannot get hit on hard. Don't know how the damage is on regular difficulty. It's really starting to piss me off more and more how developers have been doing difficulties in modern games. Dumbass parameter increase, that's it. That's the creativity behind it. They crank that damage up and fuck it, they are done. Instead of making harder difficulties more challenging by adding more movesets, making enemies more adept defensively, having the ability to counter, move a bit faster. There are so many mechanically interesting ways to make things more difficult, but no, here's a simple damage and health bar increase. Health bar increase I'm alright with, but such big damage that can kill a player in 3 hits leads to nothing but frustration. 3 hits against vitality build with added protective layers, by the way. Outside combat there is stealth gameplay, which is nicely done. We can use the hair to strike from above, unlock flowers that mask our movements, armor noise is a factor. Solid stuff. It's no Metal Gear Solid or Splinter Cell, but it does the job decently well. Character progression system seems to be well done for what I've experienced. Skill tree, which is a literal skill tree, offers 3 paths, each connected to the main attribute. Q has its own skill tree. Here we unlock new moves and focus on upgrading particular moves that fit whatever combo playstyle you want to focus on more. Then upon unlocking new special moves, we can upgrade those too. There's enough variety to play around with here, with some upgrades moderately changing playstyle. Then we can install mods to Q's special abilities that boost Q and Emma. Then there's Spirit Stones that can grant temporary buffs. Weapons with special effects. I'll know more about how effective and well done the character progression system is when I play more. So far it's solid. I'm playing the game on PC, no upscaling, max settings and with 60 frame rate lock, and outside of one crash I haven't experienced any gameplay slowdowns or problems. Game looks great, visual effects are great, nice amount of details everywhere, sound effects are great, voiceovers sound classic Japanese. Good work overall except for the exploration music. What else to say but the summary? Beast of Reincarnation is a solid game from what I played so far. Interesting story, deep enough combat, good vertical exploration, beautiful world. It has its issues with bad parameter difficulty design, ranged weapons disrupting the flow of combat, slow and generic dialogue at times, annoying main music theme and a couple other things here and there, but overall a solid game. I'll definitely finish this one and post the full review on Patreon and Subscribestar. Thanks for watching.